Okay, we're on. Oh, not a bad, oh, nice fish too. Oh, head shakes. Oh no!
G'day crew. Just kidding. That's from next week's video. This video is exciting in a different way as it continues on from last week's video and shows you how simple it is to do an annual service and save hundreds of dollars. A 100-hour service costs somewhere between $650 and $800 if you take it somewhere to be done. If you do it yourself, it costs less than half that. It's not that hard to do, and all you need are some basic tools. In this video, I'll show you how to service the leg, including changing the impeller and the gearbox oil. My outboards are Yamaha F150 AETX, but all Yamaha outboards from 115 horsepower up to about 300 horsepower manufactured after 2007 are very similar. In fact, many of them even use the same part numbers, although you should check in the video description where I discuss how to get the correct part numbers for your particular engine model.
That's for putting the oil into the gearbox. Replacement impeller. Oh, heavy little piece. I'll show you the one that's getting eaten away some other point in the video. This is the gear oil you need. Yamaha outboard gear oil GL4. Next job is to take these bolts off here and 3 on the other side and 1 down through there. They're 14 millimeters. Oh, I think they've done that awfully tight for being in aluminium. Now this middle one of the 3 on each side, what I'm going to do with him is take him all the way out. Okay, that's out. Now put him back in, and 1, 2, 3 turns in. That's just to stop the bottom of the motor falling off when I loosen it. Same deal with this middle one, she's out, back up, 1, 2, 3 turns. And we take this, take that rubber off. It's just a rubber plug to close the hole. This last bolt is connected to the trim tab. So if your trim tab's not dead centre, I'll put a mark where it is in the centre of it so that we can get it back in that spot again. Bolt here that holds that trim tab on is a 12mm bolt, and I don't have a 12mm socket that will fit my long extension, so I can't get down in there. So I had to make this. It's a bodgy job. I just ground a bit of square rod down so that it fitted in the end of the socket. Ah, there we are, we're on. Because this is a square rod, I need a shifting spanner on it to undo it. Oh, okay. That was easier than I feared. Whoops, a daisy. Left the bolt behind. There's the eaten away trim tab. It is quite dilapidated, and I probably would have replaced that last time, but whoever did it thought it was okay, I guess. It's got quite a lot of meat left on it, but all this roughness, I doubt that it'd be trimming the way it used to. That's a definite replacement. It's not something you want to replace if you don't have to, because they are quite expensive. The last bolt to get off to get this is up in here, and I sort of gather that not all models have this. Now this is a 14mm bolt. Oh, and again, very tight unnecessarily, I would guess. Oh dear. A little bit hard to get that with the propeller on. Oh, he's a long one. Right, now with all them off, you can see she's dropped down a little bit. Just give him a bit of a gentle, there we go, got him all the way down onto those bolts now. Okay, next thing, got to lift it off and put it over there to work on it. So I'm going to get my wife to help me, just in case I need her to position these bits of wood for me. And when you're taking the bottom off, it should just pop off when you do the last bolt and fall down onto those two bolts that I left a few threads in. But if it doesn't, you want something like a rubber mallet or a plastic mallet, and just very gently give it a tap. If you haven't got the hydrofoil on there, you can tap it all along there. Otherwise maybe down on the propeller housing, but just gently. Shouldn't need much, should just fall off without any help. Above all, make sure you get all of the bolts out. There's 8 bolts in total. There's the 3 bolts along here, the 3 bolts on the other side. There's one holding the trim tab on, and there's one underneath the trim tab going up that way. So 8 bolts in total that you have to take out. Okay, what we're doing, I've got to lift this piece off here where it breaks, and I've got to turn it around so the propeller's facing that way and put it in so it sits on those 2 bits of wood. Slightly, because that's in the line. Now, I've got to get these 2 bolts out.
You have to tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah, well, I want you to do the wood, but also going to need you to position these bolts. This one goes on the far side of those 4.
Far side, up here?
Yep. This one goes on the near side of those 4.
This side?
Yep. Oh, okay, ooh. This is a slightly heavy thing. Oh, okay, that's all, thank you.
Will it do anything?
Well, yeah, but I wasn't sure it was heavy. I couldn't have moved the wood by myself while I was holding it had it not been placed to me right. Just need to take these nuts off here. They're 12mm, these nuts. This is the housing for the impeller. And just so you know what's happening here, that's the gearbox down there, and this shaft changes gears. This is the water goes up through that to cool the engine, and of course that's the drive shaft there. There we go. Got the housing up, and don't lose our O-ring or this O-ring. We need both of those O-rings to go back on. Take note of where these 2 tabs are here. That's about 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I would say, somewhere there. 2 o'clock and 4:30, something like that. So anyway, on this starboard side of the engine. And what we need to do now is there's a metal ring here. We just need to gently pry that up. Patience is a virtue here. Working your way around. Don't put too much pressure on this. It's strong enough to take a little bit of pressure, but don't overdo it. So just keep working opposite sides all around. Well, getting that off was quite an adventure. It'd go up so far and it wouldn't go any further with the screwdriver, which everyone says is what you use. So what I eventually did is I went and got this spanner, got it up just enough to fit this thin spanner in underneath it, and then I used it to lever it up the rest of the way, and it came off by lifting evenly on both sides. So I don't know why it was so hard, but it was. So once you get that off, the little plastic comes off quite easily. You see there it's got a split in it, and putting the collar over the top of it closes that split up and holds it on tight. Yeah, it should be alright to reuse it. Put it over there for now. Now, there's 3 washers to come off here. I've only got 2 of them. Yeah, there's only 2 there. There's a flat washer and a wavy washer, and there's another flat washer down in here, which might have to come off after. Yeah, I'll just take the tin cover off, and now we can get this other washer. So it's flat, wavy and flat, so you must keep them in the right order. I'll put them down the way they need to go on. After all that impeller seems to be in perfect nick. There's no wear at all on that, hardly. And it's done, the engine's done 100 hours, but a lot of it's been at trolling speed, so this hasn't had nearly as much wear as 100 hours at cruising speed. You notice that the new impeller's got straight arms on it, and these are curved. That's just because they've been inside the housing. If I was to put the new impeller in, I'd have to curve the arms there as well. Leaving this on, one thing to check about it is that when it flexes, there's no cracks in the rubber. Most importantly is the flexing of it, to make sure there's no little hairline cracks you can see in the rubber. Oh, have a look at that one. Okay, I think I found some hairline cracks in that arm. One in that one too. Alright, it does get replaced after all. Okay, so sliding straight up off the shaft. If you look in there, there's a keyway there. It doesn't go through to the top of it, so you must put it on. When you put it back on, it must be the keyway down, because that's the key there that it's got to fit over. And just have another look at this now. See if I can show you these hairline cracks that I was seeing. Oh, yeah, you see that damage there? That's definitely. And there's a bit there on that one. A little bit on that one. That one's quite good. That one's pretty good, but that's a really bad one. So yes, definitely needed to replace this one. It's a genuine Yamaha replacement impeller. Okay, and there's our keyway there. So that's the downside of it. I'll put a little bit of lubrication on this just to help it go down, and just in this area I'll use a little bit of Vaseline. Now I just got to get that. There we go. Found the keyway, and that's it, all the way down. Very unlikely that you'll ever need to replace that key unless you lose it. This is our 3 washers that we've got to go back on. There's a flat washer, a wavy washer, and the other flat washer. Now I'm putting them back on in exactly the same order that I took them off, but I will give them a bit of a clean up. Get the old grease off them first. And you'll notice that I'm putting this back together in a different sequence than I took it apart, and that is because I've decided that the sequence I took it apart in was quite wrong. This is the next part to go on. That's the little nylon bush. I think I'll replace this nylon bush next time I change it. And now this is the retaining ring. Slips on over the nylon bush. You just want to get your spanner there so it's just big enough to slip over the shaft. And then you want a little hammer just to tap on it, or I've got a big rubber mallet. But that's okay, it'll do the job quite nicely. Just a little bit large to use as effectively as I could use a smaller one. Got a clean piece of this rag. Wipe off all this old grease. I probably should have done that while the impeller was still off. Would have made the job a little bit easier, but never mind. Sometimes you forget these things and have to do them out of sequence. Easy enough remedy just by rotating the impeller around so that we can clean it all. That's got him. The whole reason that I put this back together in a different way is that when I was levering this off, I was levering on top of this piece, and it's pretty thin. It's thicker than a can of soft drink, but not that much thicker. I thought it was just a bit much for it, actually. So I found out afterwards that you can take these off after you take this off, because that'll slip down over top of them. I'll just turn him upside down to demonstrate. See, he slips down over top of all those washers and retainers and things. So I think that's a better way to do it, because this is so thin you're risking damaging it when you're playing around with it. So that's what I'm going to do from now on. I'll take that off first. Now, the other thing you need to watch when you're putting this back together, remember that's the bottom because the keyway's there, and these bend this way, so we've got to rotate the shaft that way as we slide this down to make sure that these bend the right way. Now, to help us get this on, let's take this off again. I'm going to give it a coat of Vaseline on the inside of it, just so the rubber arms of the impeller rotate around a little bit easier, so we can turn it while we're slipping it on. Okay, so looking at the top, we're going to rotate this clockwise as we push down on the cover. So here we go. Here we go. Got them all in. Now remember, this was in about the, what did I say, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock position, so about 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. Again, have a good look at your gasket, make sure it's okay. And same with this smaller gasket that goes up inside, have a good look at him. Make sure he's still flexible, there's no real damage to him. Put a little bit of Vaseline in the slot where the gasket's going to fit. And we're going to use that as a bit of a glue. And then take your gasket and seat it down in that recess. And that Vaseline's going to hold it there from falling out when we turn it upside down to put it on. Then for the large gasket, we do the same thing again. Put some Vaseline around in that recess. Oh, there's a bit of grease mixed in there, it won't matter. You can use marine grease if you want to. Just traditionally I've always used Vaseline for this job. I do know a lot of guys, particularly the marine mechanics, they used marine grease for it. Got that pretty much seated in there, best we can anyway. We shall hope that that works. I think it'll be alright, just kidding. Now, our recesses for the tabs that are here and here, I can see one. I'm having trouble finding the other one. There it is there, okay. Right, there's a recess there and a recess there, so our unit goes on this way, of course. Slip him down, make sure our gaskets are still in place there, and slide him all the way home. tighten these in finger tight. There's still a fair bit of marine grease on all these threads, which is why I didn't put any of the T-gel on them, Teflon gel. Wouldn't hurt to put extra on it, but because they're still very well coated in it, I didn't bother. A 12mm spanner to do these up. As soon as you feel a little bit of pressure on it, stop. Go diagonally opposite. As soon as you get the pressure on there, stop again. And do one of the ones you haven't touched yet. And again, as soon as the pressure comes on, stop. Okay, we've got them all snug down. Now we just need to firm them up. You're going into aluminium, but you're also screwing a plastic part. So make sure you go and tighten the diagonals and don't over tighten them. Just snug them down nicely, like that. Now it's time to put that back in, but before we do that, I'm going to get some grease and just put some marine grease on these splines here. The drive shaft spline, the gear change spline, and when you're doing this, this is the gear change, do not rotate it at all, because this rotates to change gears. And if you rotate it and put it back in, then you're going to be in forward or reverse when you think you're in neutral. Just don't touch it. Make sure it doesn't move. Of course, that's the pipe that takes the cooling water up. And this here is the tube that takes the water pressure up for your speed sensor. So there's a hole in the front of the propeller housing that gets the water coming in from the front of the boat. That creates a pressure gradient, and from that pressure difference it can tell just how fast the boat's moving through the water. This is a good quality marine grease. Now, also, doesn't hurt to put a smear of it all the way along this shaft. And it will protect it somewhat from the elements. And particularly make sure you get the spline. Now, we'll also want some on this spline here. And make sure you get all around that. We'll put a little bit around here, help it seal, and a little bit around here. Right, that's all we need to worry about there. So here's another impeller that I kept. This one was taken out by a mechanic, and he said that he thought it was good enough to reuse. I could have got away without changing it, maybe, but if you look at it, you can see that the top arm, which I've got my fingers on there, is straighter than the other arms. And if you look at the flat of it, you can see just there's a bit of a imperfection in the rubber where it's starting to go, and that's what's allowed the arm to straighten out more than the others. It's the only one with that little I don't know, I call it a stress crack, and that's the only one with it, and it's straightened out more, so that impeller is obviously on its way out and should be assigned to the rubbish bin. I wouldn't give it another 100 hours in the boat. Oh, yeah. Oh, bloody hell. Oh. Oh. Got it. Oh. Now, a bolt. Middle one, far side.
Oh, far side.
Yeah. That is bloody heavy. Oh, okay, I think I'll be right now, thank you. Yeah, just about had you there for that, because no way could I have done anything about a bolt once I had that in my hands. You want to make sure that this pulls up straight. Go and do a little bit on this back corner, a little bit more on this front corner, a little bit more on the back corner. That front's nearly up now, so I can snug this one. Not overly tight, just firm for now. Same with that one. Now I can just go along and nip the others up. Not tightening them yet, just nipping them up firm so far. Okay, now these are nipped up firm, but I haven't given them the final tighten yet. Now this long bolt, it's hidden up in under here. It's the next one to go in. And just making sure we've still got our bolt there to put our trim tab on. Okay, so tighten that one. Not overly tight again, going into aluminium. Always remember that. Let's nip that back one up. Then this front one. Now this front one. And this back one. And now these middle ones. 1, 2. That's it. Now, last job is to put our trim tab back on. This is our new trim tab. See how nice that looks compared to the old one. You can see that the old one was well and truly ready to be replaced, that's for sure. Now I want some marine grease on this so that it doesn't stick. And since that bolt's up in there and I can't get it out, I'm sticking the grease in there in the thread. It'll squeeze out as I put the bolt in. I've got my bodgy tool here to do the job with. And get that down there and get it onto the bolt. Just make sure we're turning, yep, we're on it, we're turning the bolt. And remember we marked it with a marking pen just where that has got to go. So we get the arrow straight on that mark and she'll be good as gold. Screwing into zinc, so again, it's a soft metal, don't over tighten it. And be very careful getting this bodgy tool out so we don't lose our socket down in there. That's the water impeller done. Now that the trim tab's on, we can go ahead and seal this back up with our rubber cover. Clips on there. Get this cotter pin out, split pin. Oh, there we go. Throw the pin away, don't reuse it. For the sake of a couple of dollars for the pin, it's just not worth it. Again, this should not be done up real tight. I thought I might have been able to do it with my hands, but that was asking a little bit too much. And by the way, that is a 27mm socket spanner you want, or 27mm wrench of some sort. Because it's not done up tight, it shouldn't be too difficult. Now, pull that out. A lot of gunk on that. And should be able to just slide our propeller off the spline there. And now our thrust washer. It's going to be a little bit difficult. Oh, very difficult. Pretty sure there's nothing in behind it, but I do want to get it out. Just to make sure, you never know when there might be a bit of fishing line get in there. Again, if you're doing this, be very gentle, don't attack it like a bull at a gate. Shouldn't need much pressure to... Oh, there is something in there. Yeah, it had picked up a bit of fishing line. The fishing line? Yeah, don't know. If it's fishing line, I think it's braid coated with grease and oil. Okay, as soon as we had a bit of that in there, need to have a good look, see if we've done any damage to the seal. Oh, got a feeling that is damaged. Okay, I put this back together because I thought the seals were damaged at first. I needed time to think about it. I came down and had another look at it without the camera on, so you missed that little bit, but as it turns out the seals aren't damaged at all. and I'll show you in a minute how that came about. When I looked in there, I saw this flat piece with a damaged area, or what appeared to be a damaged area around here, and I thought, oh geez, what's happened there to these seals? But in fact what it was just dried grease in there, and some of the grease had been disturbed. So I just got something and dug out the dried grease. See if I can get any more out. Yeah, you might see that just on the end there. Anyway, I dug out all that old grease and I'll put some new stuff in there. And I can put the propeller back on. We're all good there. We've got the grease on the spline of that, so we don't need to worry too much about putting any in the propeller itself. Slides on there. So a little bit of grease again. Put a little bit around inside that spline as well this time. Decent coat on the outside, won't hurt. The brass nut, so adapted for marine environments. And always put a brand new split pin on this when you do the job. Okay, show you more. Oh yeah, that's it. There we go, get that all the way in there. And just hold it there while you bend both arms enough so that it won't back out. You don't need to do it a terrible lot, that'll do. That's not backing out, and I can still get in there to straighten it and extract it next time. Right, that's the propeller done. Next job is to drain the gearbox oil and replace that. To do that, I'm going to lower the motor. To drain the oil out of this gearbox, you want something to catch it in, so this honey container is just the right size for that. Now getting down here underneath where the drain plug is, which is back here a bit. It wasn't overly tight, that one, that was good. Put that aside. Now that oil's just dribbling out there a little bit. That's the plug. We're going to take that washer off and replace that washer. But put that plug aside. Now to get the oil to run out, you undo this top one. Okay, there it comes. As soon as the air gets in the top, that lets the oil come out the bottom. There's no water in that. The oil looks a bit milky if there's water in it, so there's no water in that, but it is a bit dark, so it's time it was changed. Here's that drains. I'm going to give the motor a little bit of a tip up just to make sure we get as much out as we can. So I intend to let that drain until it's dripping. As long as there's anything running out of there, it can just sit there and drain. These are the two O-rings we want to go on the oil plugs. That's the part number for them there. I'll stick it up on the screen as well, and it will be down in the video description as well. You need two of them, one for each drain plug, and this is a one-off buy. You need this to fill the oil back up again. As I say, it's a one-off buy. You only need to buy one of these and keep using it for every service thereafter. And because it's got a rubber O-ring on it, just needs to be just firmed up. That's all. Don't squash the O-ring. And we'll level it up. Now at least we'll know when it's full, not over or under full. A very different colour to what came out of it. Fair bit of air going in as I pump this. You can see it running through the tube there. So when I've finished the first bottle, I'll give it a minute for the air to come up to the top of the oil in the gearbox before I top it up. One empty, or almost. Got a bit of ullage in there, but I'll drain that out into the other one. Woo! Through. Okay, well, 1 litre was pretty much all it needed. Okay, well that's fine. Now what we do is we get our plugs. Now that one with a little stem on the bottom, that came out of the bottom of it. And this one here, the flat one, came out of the top. I do need to keep track of which screw came out of which hole, but both of the O-rings are exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which one of them we grab. And what we need to do is to put this top one in first. And what that does is seal the air in, so when we take the fill tube out and the oil starts to drain out of the bottom, having that top plug in creates a vacuum at the top and stops the oil from running out too much until we can get that bottom plug in. There's nothing for it, you're going to lose that little bit of oil until the vacuum is created at the top. And don't do them overly tight, do snug them up on the rubber washer so that they don't leak and no water gets in there. Right, well that's it, that's the oil in the gearbox changed. Wipe off any spills. That's the lower part of the leg all service now. We've got to go around and do the grease nipples and got to do the fuel filter inside the boat still.
This is a list of all the parts you may need for a normal 100-hour service. The trim tab anode will generally last for several hundred hours, so you don't need to replace that at every service. It may be possible to reuse the impeller, and I've shown you how to check for wear on that, although in general I do recommend replacing it. Pause the video if you need longer to view the parts, or look in the video description below. Next week's video will be on the water, but I will finish this series the following week with a short video on a few other things that you should check. Until then, good fishing.